Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. How to run a digital geographic farm through Facebook groups. I am possibly too pumped about this topic. So if my enthusiasm is too much for you, there's no way I can help you because that's just who I am. But seriously, I'm pumped about this topic because it's working so well for me in my business. And I feel really excited about adding a whole new stream of leads to my business and to help other people do the same thing and kind of unlock the opportunity that we all can sleep on, which is Facebook in the world of, a lot of other newer, more exciting social media apps out there. I think it's easy to forget how powerful Facebook is. So I'm going to give a really quick introduction. I know a lot of you who are here, and I did want to say I love an active chat box. So if you all could just say hi in the chat box, I would love to hear. Your name is obviously on there, so you don't need to say your name, but I would love to know your area, how many years you've been in real estate, and if you currently run any Facebook groups. And if so, just what you have going on, or if you have no experience with this, I just kind of want to get a gauge of everybody's experience level. And I'm just going to tell you a tiny bit of backstory about me. So I've been a realtor since 2005, in my 18th year of being licensed, which is bananas. I have had a team, the Beliveau group, since late 2013, and cumulatively over my career and with the team members that I've led, we've sold over 400 million in sales volume over those 18 years. And the bulk of that was with my team. I actually was just doing some math. We have sold over 30 million in annual sales volume for 9 years in a row now, using the systems and practices that I utilize and teach other people how to do. So I don't know it all, but I am super passionate about referral-based businesses that are fueled by organic social media. I've been selling real estate the majority of this time. I had a 3-year stint running a Keller Williams office, which is where I fell in love with teaching and coaching agents. So today I still run my team, the Beliveau Group, but I'm totally behind the scenes. I have a couple awesome agents who work with my book of business as well as their own book of business. And I run all of our marketing systems because that's one of my biggest passions. And at the end of last year, I launched my coaching course, High Performance Realtor Academy. And what I'm teaching you guys today is actually, I debated doing this, but this is one of my best mini modules from the 12-week course. I'm giving you a lot of it, definitely not all of it, but this was something when I taught it, people were like, damn, a lot of people came to that lesson feeling like they didn't want to have a Facebook group. And by the end, about half of them decided to go ahead and launch one. And I got a lot of great feedback. So that's why we're here. What else? Well, that's really it. We're going to just dive right in. I talk fast, so just stay with me. So I'm 37. I'm a Facebook native. I started using Facebook in college, and I was already in the real estate industry by then. So I am just a Facebook OG, and as much as I enjoy some other social media platforms, I just think there's a ton of untapped potential to really dig into some of these tools on Facebook, specifically groups that do a whole lot of things that a personal profile or a business page are incapable of accomplishing. So I'm going to walk you through how I set up my digital farm, why I set it up, what's working now, the results that I'm getting, how you can do it and implement it, and just kind of give you the big picture over these 30 minutes. And then I will stay at the end and answer as many questions as you guys have. I don't have to leave right at 1:30. So just know if you have questions, put them in the chat box near the end, and then we are going to go through everything. So let's see. Short story. In early 2020, I was just coming out of my 3 years in brokerage management. I was coming back into running the day-to-day of the Beliveau Group. I was about to deploy my old playbook of all the things that I did to grow my business, which was very, very event-driven. And then, of course, COVID. Obviously, that put everything to a stop as far as events and all the in-person networking that I envisioned myself doing. So the first thing that I actually did, which was what led to the bigger awakening about Facebook groups, was I launched a Facebook group for my past clients and my advocates. And I have a whole other mini course on that as well. You guys are going to get an email after today with the playback and a link where you could take that playbook and run with it if you're feeling more compelled to do something with your past clients. I think that is something that makes a lot of sense if you've been doing this for at least 3 to 5 years and have a little bit of a group that you could build on. So all of that to say, that was when, and I've run Facebook groups before, but that was when things really clicked for me of how this could be just such highly efficient leverage for me to reach a lot of people in a very personal and authentic way without calling all of them. And I'm not opposed to the phone, but I will just tell you, if I can reach you on social media and get the same results and do that in mass, like that just feels so much smarter to me than doing things like very much one-on-one. And the systems that I use have really allowed me to leverage going in mass. And then when I, do the like more manual reach outs to people one at a time, it can just be so much more targeted to the people that give me the most referrals or have the most referring potential or have other potential for me to collaborate with or open up new networks with and all of those different things. So, so what came out of launching my client group was just realizing how scalable it was. And at the same time, the pandemic was beginning, and I'm just going to kind of go back into the past on what I did with farming. So I'm in the Baltimore metro area. I think a lot of you guys are, but a lot of you guys aren't. There's like a town, or I don't even know what you would call it. It's bigger than a subdivision. I guess you could call it a small town where I am, called Lutherville, Timonium. And when I was actively selling and taking a lot of listings, this is the area I live in, and I was doing all the traditional farming. So I had postcards going out once a month to 5,000 addresses. And at the time, it is what it is, but that it was pretty expensive to hit that many addresses. It definitely worked. I was definitely taking listings and building my brand from doing that, but there was a cost element. And then there was a time element because I don't like to send out crappy marketing. I mean, who does? So, we were designing the postcards every month and making sure that my just listed and just solds. And the bottom line is it's a great philosophy, but the time and money is pretty intensive. And I am pretty good at being consistent compared to a lot of people in this industry, but I found it tiring to manage that. And ultimately, when I went into management, we abandoned the farm, the printed farm. So I was farming from 2013 to 2015. That was where I really started to take off with that niche. And in 2015, I decided to launch a Facebook group for the farm. So this group that I'm going to tell you about has been in existence for 8 years, but I only started really leveraging it last year, and I'm going to explain why. But basically, I launched the group back then, and I did some market research to figure out if there were competitor groups and some other things I'm going to outline in a couple minutes. It's called Living in Lutherville, Timonium. And back then, I just added, I have a ton of contacts in my area. So I got like 200 or 300 people in the group that were just people that I knew. And then I didn't really have a plan for it, so it just sat. And then that was that. Fast forward to 2020, and just because of the dynamics of the pandemic, people were searching for groups to join and places to network online, and the group just started to grow a little bit. And then I'm not even an expert on the algorithm with Facebook groups, but what I do know is that when a group starts to grow even a little bit, Facebook starts to suggest it to people. So what happened was there was a little bit of an organic snowball effect. And then basically we went from 300 members to just shy of 6,000 members currently. And the bulk of that growth has been over the last 2 years. And then there were a bunch of things that I did to drive that growth. So we grow at about, I have some notes here, you'll see me looking down. We grow about 3% per month. So there's somewhere between 150 and 175 people joining my group every month. So I'm like, hopefully you're kind of just starting to hear like the opportunity that's here, and also hear that you can have like a really crappy start with something and turn it into something great later. It doesn't need to be perfect off the bat. You don't always need to have everything figured out. But if there's one thing I know about business, just getting started is where all of our power is. So I can attest to that. It's a very active group. We have about 200 posts that get submitted every month. We approve about 85% of them on average. I'll explain more about that, but my group is not a free-for-all. And I think that's one reason why it's very successful. And I will explain more about that. We get really good engagement on certain posts. specifically when group members ask for contractors. People are just constantly asking for home service providers for reasons we all understand. It's hard to find good people. Not everybody has connections the way real estate agents do. So the group thrives off of something as simple as that. And then what happened in my brain was the group grew a little bit in 2020, even more in 2021. And I still wasn't thinking about using it as a lead funnel at that point, but I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I mean, I was using it as a funnel in that I started to respond a lot and be very present and active, but I'd kind of had this mindset that I didn't want to go so hard on branding it to me right away, which I don't even know if that was a mistake or not, but basically what shifted was at the beginning of 2022, a year ago, right around now, I was like, you know what? I'm going to put a business plan in place for this group. And I set up a whole strategy for branding, posting, and simple content that isn't constant, because constant content is the most exhausting thing to manage in the world. I'm sure a lot of you could agree with that. So I figured out kind of a sweet spot of things to do to be present, to make sure that my brand is out there, but also to grow my database and capture leads and build my email list, which I think that if you have been trained in any sort of funnel marketing or worked in marketing outside of the industry, which most real estate agents that I end up coaching with have not had any of this experience, they just don't realize the opportunity of gradually building an email list and then marketing to that email list in a really smart way that has good open rates and click-through rates and engagement and calls to action. So I decided to deploy everything I do in other areas and put that in place the way I'm describing to you. And I'm going to explain all of that. So that is what I'm up to. So basically at just the beginning of last year, I started to actually brand the group to me. We've closed about 2 million in volume from the group since then, which I don't know, depending on your business, that might sound like a boon or it might sound like not very much. My feeling is that it's a really great start and we're just at the beginning. I actually didn't even put my email list building strategy in place until October of last year. So I'm expecting to see a really big jump in the business that we get, because before people were just getting my marketing in the group, they're now getting an email touch from me every month, or in some cases 3 times a month, because there's 2 different tools that I use to email market that both get really great open rates and really high engagement. So that's the opportunity that you could add millions in volume to your business, and you can do it gradually. You don't have to leave your house. I don't know about you guys, but I like to leave my house, but for something fun, not necessarily business development. So it's just been really scalable for me to do. You know, I had a newborn last year, I'm pregnant again. So I'm just so passionate about like, how can I manage my energy and not be putting it out to everyone all the time, because there's only so much to go around. So a couple things I want to say about Facebook groups for you to think about the power. Number one, they're opt-in marketing. People need to accept your invite to be in the group. So you can't you used to be able to just throw people into a Facebook group and they would be like, why am I seeing this all of a sudden? Now you can add them and they kind of get a preview, but it's 30 days. It's very different. Ultimately, if someone chooses to be in the group, they're saying, I want to be here. And that creates a level of permission to have conversations that wouldn't necessarily be happening otherwise. So I also think that's a really powerful point with having a group for your clients. If they're opting into being in that kind of relationship, that's a great way to find the like top 20%. Like literally about 20% of my personal database is in my client group. And it's that like that whole 80-20 rule. About 20% of them want to be highly in touch with me. The rest don't. That's great. I focus on the 20% and then do the really mass marketing to the other 80%. So that's one thing. The second thing I love about groups is they provide so much insight. You can see not only how many people looked at your post, but you can actually see who saw your post. You can't do that with other like Facebook profiles or pages. So sure, there's some stalker potential, but there's also just a way to get a much better idea of what's really working and what's getting attention and why. And that allows you to finesse your marketing and make it a lot stronger. My third thing, which I've already kind of beat to death, is just that it's leverage for your time, your energy, and your money. It costs you nothing unless you want to hire someone to help curate the group for you, which by the way, I have someone curating another group for me and it is so awesome. She's actually like giving me engagement ideas and welcoming my new members. And that's a really effective strategy. I've learned a lot from her. But at the end of the day, it's leverage for you or someone who works for or with you. And I think that's huge. And it's easy to be super visual on Facebook. At the end of the day, people love static photos on Facebook. That is what does everything, especially one great photo. So groups are just a really great place to have one picture that goes really far for you. You don't need to create a detailed video. Yeah, video is awesome. Here we are on video. I do certain things in Facebook groups, but at the end of the day, there's just like so much leverage with whatever's already in your camera roll and your phone. And I think it's easy to forget that when you're in a world of like seeing stuff that's like uber designed in Canva, and people want authenticity. So that's a whole other topic that I like to teach people on. So that's something to think about with your group. And I do love the concept of going live in groups because it's small, it's enclosed, it's intimate, it feels much safer to me. And the people that are in that group all have something in common. If I go live on my public Facebook, just like you guys, I have friends, family, clients, realtors I'm friends with, people I went to college with. They don't necessarily all want to hear a business message. They might, something really compelling and actually interesting could be really cool to show. But the beauty of the group is like, they're all there gathered for a reason. It's so much easier to start a conversation and target that content. So I do go live in my groups way more than I ever go live on public Facebook. And I think if you're someone who is comfortable doing a little video, it's a great place to keep going. So let's talk about how and what to do. And by the way, I see some great questions coming in. I'm going to come back and answer those. So you want to start a group. First thing is like, okay, well, what exactly do you want to focus on? I think being realtors, something geographically driven is obviously smart unless you have like a national team for some reason, or you're doing something else in business that isn't geographically based. But I think that, you know, something that is attuned to a city, a town, a neighborhood, or a subdivision is usually your best bet. And it can be, like a sort of like a specialty topic that pairs with an area. Like in Maryland, there's a Moms of Baltimore County group that I wish I had started, but it already exists. There's 10,000 members in it. It's really thriving. So it could be something that's like moms in this area, or, you know, parents in this area, or dog lovers and whatever. So just to kind of get your brainstorm going, make sure if you want like a real business opportunity, I would say make sure that it is a big enough demographic that you can really build a list. Unless you're just going after your own little neighborhood and there isn't already a Facebook group there, that has a lot of power too. But just know that, like, depending on how much volume you're looking to generate, you want to think about the size of the audience, the demographics, the average sale price, all that stuff. So I would encourage you to brainstorm your dream client. Where do they live? What's their house worth? How do you want to reach those people? That would be step one. And then you want to just do a little bit of market research as step two, and start searching Facebook groups to see if there are any competitor groups in your niche. And again, you could start a group that's just like someone else's, but I think it's just good to know what you're up against or what kind of twist you could put on something so that it could be a little bit different. So ultimately, you want to see what else is out there. I did that way back when I started my group. There was nothing for Lutherville. There might be now, but I'm not aware of it. So that was, again, like a really easy gap in the market for me to fill. And then when people are searching stuff in Facebook, then you're more likely to come up. And that's the other thing that I've encouraged people to think about. And this is, I mean, marketing, it's so important in everything, but just being really strategic about the name. You want it to be words that someone would actually search. For example, in my last academy, someone wanted to launch a group for her town, and she was like, oh, we'll just do the zip code. And I said, I don't think anyone's putting that zip code in Facebook. They're searching the town name. And she ultimately went with the town name. So just think about searchability, because that is how, one of the ways, if you're not directly adding people into the group, they're searching and finding it, or other members are adding them into the group, which is another great way to grow. So food for thought on your initial strategy. And then I'm going to actually show you guys some visuals. So let's see here. Do I have my, yeah, I do. Okay. Let's make sure this is going to work. All right, can you guys see my screen? Whoops, someone give me a head nod. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It would help if I push the right buttons. Okay, so just to give you a little preview, this is what my group looks like. This is a screenshot from months ago. We're now at almost 5,800 members, yay. But that's the name, Living in Lutherville, Timonium. The group is by my business page, which is something, I'm an admin on it personally, but my team business page is the owner. So there's just all these different ways to work in the light branding. Just a little bit of a peek here. You can see I have an about here. I came up with a cute hashtag for the area, so I use that at times, and I've got some pinned posts and rules, and I'm gonna explain all of that more in a minute, but I just wanted to give you guys a quick visual of what it actually looks like. So you want to make sure that you set up the core parts of your group. Again, I don't want to dive into the minutia today, but you want to have all these things here that I just outlined, just to make sure that the group is comprehensive and doing all the things that it could be. So you have your strategy in place. You launch your group and you set it up, and maybe you put in a little bit of content before you start adding people. And then the question becomes, okay, what are my content pillars? So these are my key content pillars. You don't actually need to do this many, but it just gives you a brainstorm of what you could work with and start to curate. I think stirring up a conversation in your group once a week is plenty. More than that is awesome, but it does not need to be as constant as other social media, in my opinion. So I do a monthly market insight where I show stats for that specific zip code, and I keep it really simple. Real estate agents are not famous for posting really great graphics about market stats. They tend to be like I look at it and my eyes glaze over, but I just want to know, are home prices going up or down right now? So that's what my market insight graphic is about. Just which way are home values trending? So that's a big one. My last one actually got great engagement on that. Like I already said, people love getting vendor referrals. Spotlighting your business is something that I do strategically, not constantly, because I actually have some very strict rules about, first of all, I don't allow any other realtors in my group, so don't try and join it. Sorry, but that's one of Tina's rules. I don't have other realtors in there, and I moderate all posts because people join Facebook groups to spam about their business. So we have a very clear rule that you can only post your business on Small Business Saturday. I picked the third Saturday of every month. By the way, that's scheduled. You can schedule all of your posts in Facebook. You never have to do anything live in Facebook groups, which is huge. So I schedule all my posts once a month and then don't touch it again. I just engage in the comments as things happen. So I spot my business sparingly, and then everything else is kind of controlled to Small Business Saturday. Sometimes I bring in like-minded vendors to collaborate and share content and information. I've done virtual events. I've coordinated in-person events. We did a diaper drive. I'm involved in a charity that sources diapers for moms in need. We did an event at a store in Lutherville in the fall, invited everyone in the group, got diapers, shared the story afterwards. It was super easy for me, and it benefited the store owner and the nonprofit. I think that's a huge way to build community and start to have relationships with lots of other business owners. You can collate posts into something called a guide. I'm going to show you guys what that looks like in a second. And I did something really great last year for engagement that really took off with my branding called Trade Tuesday. I also ask every month, what are all the good events happening in the area? And people I feel like groups, the power is in the crowdsourcing. People want to contribute. They want to share tips. They want to share information. But if you can become the face of actually curating those conversations, that's where that power really is. But what I really want to tell you guys is contests are where it's at for building your email list. So a couple quick examples. This is what Trade Tuesday looks like. I do share these templates with the people that are in my coaching course. So just a little PSA, I'll tell you a tiny bit more about that at the end, but I do have a whole playbook for this that I do provide for people who are at that level with me. So every week I had this scheduled out. I think you can schedule posts for 2 months at a time. So I just sat there and did it for 20 minutes, and then all my posts were scheduled. And every week I asked for a different trade: contractor, landscaper, painter. Obviously you get the idea. People commented. You can see I got a 1,500 person post reach. And then at the end of the Trade Tuesday push, I collated all of them into a guide. So you can take posts and collect them. So you can kind of see on this right-hand screenshot, I put all of my Trade Tuesday posts together in one place. And then whenever anyone has a question, I just link them to the guide and they can look up anything they need. And then I always get, such a like, wow, oh my God, that was awesome. Thank you. And then that's a spot for me to dive in and continue to build the relationship. This is just a quick visual on Small Business Saturday. So this is just kind of my note on the branding. These are my brand colors. That's my brand logo. I just don't put the Beliveau group on it, but you get the idea when you see it over and over again. And everything is just completely cohesive and really clean and professional looking. And then that just, goes back to my strategy of the way I want people to think of my brand. And that was, again, this is something I just started implementing last year. Before that, I wasn't doing anything intentional like this. So big blind spot for a minute, but I got over it. This is my monthly events thread. I just post the same image every month. You can post these again. You can schedule them 2 months at a time and find out what people are into for the month. And then this is what I really want to tell you guys about. People love giveaways for cool stuff. I mean, I know this sounds so obvious, but I think it's really easy to forget that you can throw 50 or $100 at something. And obviously, you guys know Maryland people love their crabs. I'm not a crab person, so I'm always amazed by how obsessed people are with crabs, but I have a stat on this. This giveaway, I did it in the fall. I spent $125 on the crabs and the drink gift card. We had 240 people enter the contest through a form that I created, and they all went in my database. And I have really smart questions inside these forms, finding out who wants to buy or sell. We got 8 leads. One of them wanted to list their house right away. They met my team member within a week. We took the listing over from Redfin, under contract 5 days later, sold it 21 days later. That was our first closing of this year. So this post is, I think I did the drawing in August. I posted in August, I did the drawing in September, and then we had a sale all the way through 3 months later. So again, I spent $125, got a listing from it, and added 240 people to my database. So I can't even tell you how passionate I am about doing contests. I've been doing them for membership milestones. Every time we reach another 1,000 people, I do another contest, and I just keep growing the list and growing the list. And I was actually growing the list for a long time before I started marketing to it. And I've also, because my group is now such a valuable place, now people see it as an opportunity for themselves. So a lot of my giveaways, I don't spend anything. We did a massage giveaway from a local spa. If you guys are local, Cake by Jason has really popular cakes. We did a giveaway for one of their cakes at Thanksgiving. Also got a ton of database ads. That might have been the one I got the listing from, actually. Yeah, I feel like that was November, and then we took the listing in December. Anyway, welcome to my brain. So this was really the aha for me, though, of list building and really getting this all to work together. So I'm going to show you one more. Oh yeah, and then this is just a screenshot of me looking stupid in a mid-talk screen grab, but I go live every time I do the actual giveaways. It's a great way for me to become human to the group, for them to see my face. And I do this fun little screen share where there's this thing called wheelofnames.com. That would be just a little takeaway if you guys ever do a giveaway for anything. And it does this cute visual, and you see it and you see the winner, and it does like a yay at the end. So I just do that with every contest. And I always get little comments like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. And again, I'm just building that relationship virtually with a lot of people at once. So that is a great way to show your face once in a while, even if you're not big on doing that all the time. And then I want to talk a little bit more about lead capture and how to structure your group. So for a long time, I didn't know this, but you can put membership questions in a group that people have to answer for you to approve them and let them in. So I have 2 questions just confirming that they're in the area, because I find all the spammers don't fill the questions out. So it's just a good filter. And then you can see my second question is really strategic. I ask them, if you would like a monthly update on your home's value, give me your email and your home address. About 10% of the people fill this out. I'm constantly building my email list and marketing to people that are homeowners and moving towards more and more listings for my business. So this was a huge aha. I use a very, very effective tool that gets an awesome open rate, that I take the data they're giving me here and plug that into the system. And when I say I mean my amazing ops manager, Melissa, who's here on the Zoom today. She takes it and puts it in for me. There's also a tool that will actually automate this a little bit and put it into a spreadsheet that is on my list to set up this year. So there are ways to automate this. And I do get into more of this with the people that I coach. So I'm going to stop the screen share for a second. It's 1:30. We're going to run a little over. If anyone has to go, you'll get the recording. No stress. So you saw my branding. I just wanted to touch on a couple of the other things. You know, I bring in everything, my colors, my fonts, my logo, and also just my copy, like my voice, my brand voice is a really big part of the group. And then what I did when I started to realize that I had hundreds of emails that I was sitting on was just thinking about what could I send people that would be really valuable, that they're a homeowner. A lot of people have given me their address and then they go in the other tool that I mentioned, but a lot of them I don't have an address for, and I wanted them to get something that was even more curated and high touch. So starting in November of last year, I designed a monthly newsletter that goes out, and it's really simple. Again, it looks a lot like the branding you already saw. I highlight 3 really interesting listings in the area for different reasons. I show the highest dollar sale, the best deal, something that has some good, you know, resale potential, and then the and like the ideal starter home, like a really good first time buyer house. And what happens is people get the email, then they see the listings, they click on it, and then I use a really great website with IDX enablement and a bunch of other retargeting. So then they're on my website browsing, and then they start getting other emails if they've been browsing a whole bunch. So it just, I'm moving people through a funnel, and it's all based through systems. It's all automated. I'm not, you know, reaching out to people and doing this individually because that is impossible to do consistently and at scale. So there's a couple other things I do in the email, but that's kind of the high level of, I visioned a template for it, and then I have a marketing assistant who creates the email and sends it out for me once a month. But that is something you could DIY if you're at all attuned to doing some of your own email content. And then just a little preview of like what's coming next. This year, I'm intending around my baby schedule, which is a little bit of a, you know, a blip in the middle of everything, but I am intending to throw a few more in-person events through the group. I'm really going to go harder on connecting with other moms. I'm thinking of maybe organizing a play group. So just kind of, you want to think about who's in your group and what are they into and what could you plan that they would want to come out to. Even just like a neighbor meetup at a local coffee shop, I think could be a really great concept. And then another idea that I've put on the shelf for now, but I am going to come back to at some point, is in Baltimore, if you guys, and I'm sure every city does this, but there's like Best of Baltimore and Baltimore Magazine, and it's a really popular contest. I want to do like a more hyper local Best of Lutherville contest. And that way I could basically crowdsource the best of the best and then reach out and build relationships with all of those business owners and go from there. So hopefully this is pinging some creativity for you guys, because I feel like with lead generation, especially in a declining market like we have right now, or a questionable market, whatever you want to call it, really weird one. It's just hard at times to feel like you want to keep chugging, or, you know, when you get knocked down and get back up again. So it helps me to hear fresh ideas. So hopefully that's going to help somebody as well. I'm actually going to, oh yeah, we're not that far over. I do want to tell you about a couple boring things that I learned about adminning larger Facebook groups that I learned the hard way or have figured out how to put in place now that I'm at scale, and I think they're good to know. I already told you my cardinal rule, no realtors allowed. If I'm putting this much work into something, I want to make sure that it's benefiting my business. So that's the number one thing. Number two, all of my posts are moderated. And this is something that became bananas in the last 2 years. As the group took off, it got a next door energy going. And if you guys know what next door energy, you know it's not positive. People are complaining about stuff. They're angry about their neighbor's dirty yard. They're all worried about who walked by in a hoodie. There's so much veiled racism and classism. It's absolutely disgusting to me. And I was sort of like having these reactions, like, I can't believe, I know this is the world we live in, but I don't want to read these posts. I don't want my name on them. I don't agree with any of this. So I started to create rules for my group and core values. And really, like, what we've said is like, this group isn't next door. It's literally a positive place. If you have complaints, issues, etc., with anything, like, go to next door. And I've had to have a little bit of like head to head with people about it, but it's been important, because otherwise, like, I don't want to be in a group that's full of spam and negativity and aggression. Like, I would unfollow that in a second. So that has been a good thing for me to get clear on. I know I might seem like I have a strong personality, but it was pretty awkward for me to start to be a little bit of an arbiter of the tone and censoring even at times. But it was really necessary. So that's one thing. And I just want to show a couple visuals. Well, it would help if I turn my screen share back on. So a couple things that I kind of figured out through this process. And by the way, let me go back one. Okay, so I showed you my membership questions. There's actually an opportunity to turn on something called a group intro, that when someone joins the group, they get this little blurb. I give them a little bit of information about the rules over again, because people don't really retain the rules. And then again, my brand and contact info is there. One thing that I learned from the person who's curating another group for me, like I already said, but I'm going to say it again, because I think it was such a valuable takeaway from watching her work. She messages everyone to welcome to the group with the same template. Hey, I'm so glad you're here. What are your goals? Da, 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 da. That's my relationship driven realtor group. She's been starting conversations in there for me and with me. And then I monitor and jump in when people respond. I think it's a great practice with this kind of group, and asking, do you have any real estate needs? Are you thinking of moving in the next year? I think there's a lot of different ways you can ask open-ended questions, but you could, so that's something that we're going to implement in this group, because I saw her doing that and saw how valuable it was. Next tip, I have a little welcome post at the top. Again, like, you're in that group and you're just seeing my name everywhere. So branding and also kind of setting the tone. And then, like I told you, I had to set up rules. So number 1 is be nice. Number 2 is no business ads except Small Business Saturday. And another thing that I started to find was people, again, come into a group and have all their agendas. And I was getting posts from like other areas that had nothing to do with Lutherville. So we created the third rule of like, it really has to relate to this area in some way. And then if people want to sell stuff, buy sell groups can be really crazy and full of spam too, or just like a lot of different things. So we decided to allow buying and selling, but it has to be one post. If you have 10 things to sell, don't post 10 times. So some of that's boring, but it really helped keep our group cohesive and a place where you're like, I don't want to unfollow this. Like, to me, that's like the test of everything. Like, am I about to unfollow? What else? You want to make sure that your group is on private, but not secret. If it's on secret, they can't even find it. If it's on open, then your posts are publicly available, and you may be fine with that. I went with the middle of the road option, private. I find that that works really well. And yeah, so I'm going to take questions in a second. That's about as much as I could fit into 35 minutes. So if you have questions, I want you to either put them in the chat box, or there's a hand raise button on Zoom, and you are welcome to hit that button, and then I'll start to call on people. I do want to take 1 minute to tell you guys about my academy, because it starts a week from today. And like I sort of have implied, or if you've heard from me, it's a 12-week immersive program. It's a blend of training, but also direct mentoring from me. It's the best of my systems and processes for branding, marketing, getting referrals, getting repeat clients, and automating and systematizing everything possible so that your business is really seamless, really professional, something that people admire. People have been asking me for my systems and how do you do that for years? And I finally packaged it into one box. So just to show you guys, I walk you through, there's really nothing I don't teach, and there's no question I won't answer. There's no material that I won't share. I give out my listing presentation, all kinds of other stuff. So I walk you through all things marketing from a referral and networking standpoint. So we touch on email marketing and client events. I give out all of my systems, literally my email templates, my checklists, what we do to get reviews on Google, nothing held back. You guys just got a taste of what I teach in Facebook groups. There's a whole list of templates and how-tos that I didn't give out today, like literally a step-by-step guide. I give out my Trade Tuesday list. I give out my Canva templates for everything. I give you super detailed guidance. I helped someone in the last academy take over someone else's Facebook group, a group that's even bigger than mine. And she's now leveraging a really established group for her business. I also help people establish client groups or figure out other niches or how to utilize other people's groups. Everything on systems. I teach you what I do with branding, specifically from an organic social media perspective. I help you clarify your brand. I help you get comfortable on video once and for all on your own terms. And then we have a really powerful module on money, goal setting, budgeting, and a whole lot more. So what are you waiting for? That's the question. So if you are interested in the program, my friend Melissa here is going to drop a link in the chat box. So if you're interested, you can fill out an application. It takes you about 5 minutes to complete it. And basically I get your application and then I reach out to you to set up a phone call, and then we'll talk about everything. And I want to know about your goals and if it's a fit. And if not, I'm going to tell you, and I'll refer you to the right place, because that's how I do business. And I do have a special offer for anyone that applies to the Academy by tonight and ends up joining. You'll also get a bonus one-on-one coaching call and support from me on top of everything else. So that's more than enough about me and what I'm up to. So I'm going to dive into questions, and let's see here. Do I see any hand raises? Let me go to the gallery view. No. Okay. I'm going to go in the chat box, and I want to know, what do you guys want to know? So I see, by the way, that there's a mix of people who have groups, don't have groups, and a lot of people who need to revive them. I said this to someone the other day, like, don't be intimidated if you need to revive. No one's sitting there going, why has Tina's Facebook group been so quiet? Like, people don't have time to worry about that. So that's something I wouldn't stress about if you've got something to revive. I think that is way better than building from scratch. Kelly asked me, what platform do I use for my email list? I use Flowdesk. And if you don't know about Flowdesk yet, shoot me a message on Facebook in Messenger, and I can give you a little bit of information and a little promo code. It has revolutionized my open rates and my engagement. If you're using anything else, it's probably not as good. That sounds bitchy, but I'm literally like, there's a better tool than what you're using, and I want you to know that. Sherry asked, my area is super saturated with local pages. Any ideas for how to set a page or group apart? So I'm assuming you mean groups, not pages. So I would say a couple things that if I was in your situation, and I know exactly where Sherry is, and I know what she's talking about, I would think about, is there a niche that you can attach to, something that you, and I know Sherry works with a team, that your team leader is passionate about, that you can tie together? Or how do you create a group that is just better or different or adds value in a different way? So I would even suggest maybe doing some market research and looking at those groups and starting to think about what could you do better or differently. And if anyone else has suggestions they want to put in the chat box for a similar kind of scenario, I would be curious what you would have to say as well. What else? Lorraine had mentioned in the chat box, she has a realtor friend who did a wine and networking group. I thought it was brilliant, but he's local to me. I wouldn't let that stop you. We all have different friend groups, and even if there's some overlap, there's just so much business to go around. People love book clubs, but book clubs are huge. In that Moms of Baltimore County group I mentioned, someone posted about starting a book club, and I lost count, but hundreds of people commented they wanted to be in a book club. So that's my additional unsolicited tip for the day. And then Stacy asked a really great question. Do you allow them in if they don't answer both questions? And if they don't answer each question, do you DM them why they were denied entry? So that's totally a personal preference. I let them in. I let them in if I think they're not spam or there's no red flags. And I do open people's profile to see if they're a realtor. So those are a couple things that I do. Generally, I'm just pro growing my group. And I found that I get way better lead capture from my contest than the membership questions anyway. The contest is obviously a way bigger incentive for them to respond to. So just by having the consistency in the systems and the content that I've mentioned today, that really does the trick. For me, it's really just screening that there are certain scams. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen this. There's like a duct cleaning scam. These duct cleaners are always trying to get in the group. So I'm just looking for like problem posts where I'm constantly like rejecting their posts and then blocking them from the group. So that's my approach. I think there's no wrong way to do it, but I'm just, I'm looking to grow the funnel as long as it makes sense. And then Allie asked me, what questions are you asking in the form for people to enter the contest? This is great. Thank you. I'm glad you think it's great. So I basically just asked them if they're looking to buy or sell. I have a better way of saying it. I'm trying to think offhand what it says. I use Jot Forms, which is an awesome tool. You can have 5 forms that are free until you start getting a ton of traffic. And my contests were so big, I had to start paying Jot Form, which I'm happy to do because it's a revenue generating tool for me. But Jot Form has an if-then ability. So if they say yes to selling, it can add a field that mandates them to fill their address in. So I like my forms to be smart. This is again, like marketing, internet marketing stuff that like people don't always know about in our space. It seems obvious, but the more you have to fill out a form, the less likely you are to complete it. So I try and keep my forms really simple. Like I have a first and last name field together instead of it being 2 separate things. I try and use check boxes. I try and limit how much you actually have to type. I like Jot Form because it's really mobile optimized. So with forms, you want to have that balance of like figuring out who's a lead somehow, depending on what your goals are, but not making it so cumbersome that people are like, F this, I'm not going to fill the rest of this thing out. Oh, what else? My team lead took part in this is from Hillary. My team lead took part in the academy and it's the best coaching she ever received. And I'm noticing a huge difference in our team in regards to implementation systems and so on. I just thought, oh, thank you. I thought there was a question there, but I'll take the compliment all day. I will say, I want to give Hillary's team lead and Hillary a huge shout out. One of the things that I teach is how to like run contests and promotions through email and text. And do you remember how many Google reviews did you guys add? Was it almost 50?
We added 50, and keep in mind, we didn't have any Google reviews at all. We were strictly just Facebook and Zillow. We added 50 Google reviews in 3 days.
That's insane. So from 0 to 50, and like many of us, like for years, I got my reviews everywhere else. Zillow, Facebook page, and like Facebook pages are good for credibility, but like who looks at those anymore? Like everyone's looking at Google. So great example of like an established agent that just had a big hole and like from 0 to 50 reviews is freaking awesome. Jackie, I will send you the Flowdesk info. And Kelly asked a great question about how to build the group, which I didn't go really deep on, but you can only add friends and by email, correct? So yes, yes and no. So yes, you can only directly add your friends, or you can like email people and they get an invite and then they have to opt in. So there are a lot of other ways to growth hack your group. Ask your members to add their friends or neighbors, term it appropriately depending on the way the group is set up. You can post it and ask people to share the group. You can promote your group in other groups. And if you're mailing a farm, send them a QR code to join your group. That could be the entire piece for the month. And maybe there's something that's in it for them, like enter to win, a $50 gift card to like the beloved restaurant or liquor store in your area, whatever the case may be, or like really good name brand champagne, something where people go, ooh, I want that. A massage somewhere really popular. Those are some of the things that I found that really hit. So if you're looking to grow a group, it is very smart to start off with a plan of like launching it and all the ways you can kind of just do that at once, and leveraging your network and other people is huge. I mean, that's the power of Facebook. And that's how I grew this Zoom to be so well attended. I had a few people posted in their groups that were full of realtors, and I had a bunch of people sign up that I didn't know. And it was just such a good reminder of like, use your network, like other people will help you, especially if you've been helping them, off and on for years in whatever way you can. So, oh, great. So Melissa put the question in the chat box. Our Jot form says, do you have any real estate needs we can help with? So there's a simple question. If I were to rewrite my own poorly written question, Sales 101, a yes, no question is not the best kind of question to ask. So I should probably go edit my Jot form and change it to something open-ended, like what are your real estate goals in 2023? Or what real estate needs do you have? I don't even know. I'll keep thinking, but try and avoid a yes, no question when you can, although my forms are working. So, there's that. Last question in the chat box, Christy asks, is this a different group for past clients? Do you have both? Yes, I have both because they're different audiences. My group is pretty niche, the area. My client base is all over compared to that. So I found it helpful to have 2 groups. But this is the advice that I give anyone with these kind of systems is like, you really want to zoom out. Like this is obviously what I've given you today is like some really great tactics, but it needs to be logical with whatever it is that you're like really up to and what you really need right now. Like question, do you have a database that is healthy, maybe not big, but medium to big, and you just haven't been nurturing it? Or is your database puny, or has there been a lot of attrition for various reasons, and do you need to grow it? Knowing the answer to that question is huge, because yes, you can grow your database and nurture it at the same time, but we're all human. We can only implement so many new systems and business strategies in a set period of time. So it really helps to know what your opportunity gap is and exploit that first, the biggest opportunity gap. And that was really what hit me at the beginning of last year was I'm sitting on a database of 5,000 people. What the heck am I doing? Let me run with this. I didn't have that a few years ago. It made no sense for me to do that. I'm out of breath. Anything else? I got a question in the chat box. Do I use KV Core? Sort of. I have KV Core through my broker. I love it. I use it for the IDX. I have a different website that I had separately had designed by someone amazing. Our website is awesome. So they're not totally linked together, but having IDX, some sort of IDX tool is really powerful. Oh, the questions just keep on coming. And I will see you next week. I have a bunch of my 2023 Academy people in here. Oh, so excited. Victoria, can you give an idea of what the conversation topics that are brought up in your group outside of Small Business Saturday? I assume restaurant recs, people posting events, etc. Yeah, so people, like if you're asking what they're asking versus what I'm posting, it's definitely the home service questions. And then there's like a few restaurants that people are obsessed with. Like there was a restaurant in Lutherville that moved somewhere from one location to another. And like people were constantly in there going, when is Szechuan House opening? Like it's like the most popular topic in the entire group was this Chinese restaurant. So I think that's just a good lesson of like beloved local institutions are a really good place to dig in with the local group, having events there, getting friendly with those owners, collaborating, supporting them. That definitely happened with the Cake by Jason guy in Timonium. He reached out to me and offered to do a giveaway because I had been so supportive of his business and enthusiastic when he would post. So I would say the restaurants are a great place to dig in. And I just posted last week, like best tips on things to do with a bored toddler in the winter. And I got like 30 comments. And that was, I am purposeful in my group. Not everything is branded. A lot of it is meant to be like authentic, Tina the person. I just made sure to blend the brand in enough that I wasn't losing the business opportunity. But those kind of crowdsourcing questions with no graphic do really, really well. Oh, and Tori, I'm glad you're looking into the Academy. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap. Julie asked if I use KV Core or my other website to advertise. I actually don't do any advertising paid. Everything I do is organic. Like I've talked about today. If you want to PM me, I'm happy to chat with you more about that. So thank you guys for coming. This is so fun. I hope you got some value. And again, if you want to hear about my academy or what I'm up to, we put the link in the chat box. I'll send that out in the playback. And then I do have a Facebook group, Relationship Driven Real Estate. I'll get you guys the link for that. I think a lot of you are already in there, but if you aren't, please join me. And by the way, one thing that's happening in my group is I've been doing all the posting. You guys are welcome to post questions in there. And the people in that group are all awesome. Like everyone is super referral and sphere minded. So don't hesitate to ask for what you need in there and crowdsource, because the brain share and the mastermind in there is really awesome. And thank you for all the love in the chat box. You guys have totally made my day. So I'll let you go. Thank you. Take care.